Welcome to that 80s show, and were we corny enough? It is Halloween month. That's a little bit of a Halloweeny song. How you doing, Dori?
I think I have heard that song before, but probably not since the 80s.
Oh, good.
It's vaguely familiar to me.
Really? I've done a good one. If you're listening on the podcast, we just played I Eat Cannonball. No, Paulo, I eat cannibals.
Was that a misheard lyric or a misspoken word?
Right, so I'm looking at my notes here. Right, it's okay. Let's try that again. I Eat Cannibals by Toto Coelo, right? And like Dori says,
right.
Vague to... that was a one-hit wonder. It was a dance floor classic. It was a banger back in the 80s. Got all the people on the Caesars Palace top club Beirut dance floors, right?
Okay.
And every week we've been opening up with like a different song with a misheard lyric. But that is a song where it's like, what the fuck did they just say lyrics, right?
But they enunciate very well, so you cannot mishear the lyrics.
You definitely do, but some idiots still hear it. Like I said, that's what was in my head. I eat cannonballs.
I eat cannonballs.
Cool song, hey? Very cool song. Okay.
Yeah, it is cool.
Another song of theirs on the theme called Dracula's Tango and Milk from the Coconut. Do with that what you want.
Okay.
But Dori, you know how I found this song, right? Let me tell you how I found it, how it comes back into my consciousness. So last week it wasn't a movie recommendation. You did a story recommendation and then gave people numerous media options of how to find that story, right? You just want to recap what that was for anyone who missed it.
Yes, so I was originally inspired by a podcast series called Welcome to Your Fantasy, which also has an accompanying Instagram account, which is glorious.
Really?
And then I was like, well, let me see if there's a movie about the story, and there's multiple bad made-for-TV movies. I watched one of the bad made-for-TV movies. It was terrible. But there is a series coming next month.
Yes.
To, I think, HBO or one of those things.
Yes.
About it. So it's a story that you cannot avoid, really. And then, Paulo, you discovered something else.
Well, it's the story of the Chippendales, right? So the Chippendales back in the 80s, how they got started, but it ends up in a murder mystery. So here's the thing, right? So I listened to the podcast because it sounds fascinating. I love stuff like that. It started...
Did you listen to the whole podcast?
So here's the thing, right? It started really cool. Okay. And I was really enjoying it because it kind of like went through the Chippendales, how they got discovered, kind of spoke to all the Chippendales, Michael Rapp, the most perfect man in the world. You've kind of got the Instagram feed to go along to kind of go, the Instagram is so glorious. What was also cool is the hosts of the podcast were like, they're obviously younger and they didn't kind of try to frame it with today's sensitivities. It was like, listen, this was good-looking young men. Everyone wanted to look at them, and they didn't try to be too, kind of be too smart about it, which is cool because sometimes that can break you. But, and listen, I was thinking, who am I to tell Gimlet how to do podcasts? But I like to think of myself as one of the leading podcast minds in Africa, Dori, on this continent. I like to think of myself as.
And yet, so modest.
So modest. But what is it about American podcasts that everything has got to end up in a murder mystery? Because, yes, there is a murder.
Dude, that's the real story.
I know, but it's just I don't like murder podcasts. So I got to episode 6 when they killed him. And then everything solving it afterwards kind of just threw me. But great story, right? Give it a listen if you do like murder podcasts. But throughout the whole thing, they promote their Spotify playlist, okay? Now, Dori, what I loved, and I don't know if you picked this up, right? So obviously they can't use music, commercial music in the podcast, but they would use sound-alike songs. So they were like every now and again, there was like, they would kind of try to recreate a scene or a moment, but with like a Karma Chameleon sound-alike kind of song in the podcast. Okay.
I don't even actually remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It happened a couple of times. There were a couple of times that it kind of popped up. So I was like, I have got to go find the Spotify playlist. And I have listened. Listen, I've listened to this 10 million times over way more listening pleasure for me than the podcast series, which is great. Let me just give you some of the songs. I'm going to go through the 80s ones, right? Black Cat by Janet Jackson. Awesome, Janet Jackson, Rhythm Nation. Would I Lie to You by Eurythmics. I Eat Cannibals was that's where I kind of...
Oh, you almost did it again.
I almost did it again. I'm going to do it. I need to get out of here. Of course, I'm Too Sexy. More 90s, Right Said Fred. I'm Too Sexy comes in there. Against All Odds by Phil Collins. Venus, Bananarama. My Heart Goes Bang, Dead or Alive. The shit Dead or Alive song.
No, come on. There's no such thing as a shit Dead or Alive song.
Compared to You Spin Me Around. Okay, the bar is very high. Yes. Okay, obviously You Can Leave Your Hat On by Joe Cocker. Prince, You Got the Look. Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Conga, Holiday by Madonna. I mean, it is fantastic. Devo, Satisfaction, Simply the Best, Tina Turner, Michael Bolton. I mean, this is the playlist of my dreams. Careless Whisper by George Michael's on there. Missionary Man. I mean, what a playlist.
I am so glad I never saw Chippendale stripping to Careless Whisper by George Michael.
What are you
kidding
me?
No, I do not want that mental image with that song. Because every time I hear that song, I think of the music video, which makes me happy. I would not want gratuitous butt in my brain when I hear that song.
And, you know, the final episode of Welcome to Your Fantasy, the podcast, is called What? Where the Butt Ends. So
Yes.
Listen, fun. I really enjoyed it. It's really funny. But the complementary media, so like the Spotify playlist, the Instagram is really, because that you keep. That's gonna, I'm now all over it. I got to tell you, and I got a bone to pick with you, Dori. Yes. So obviously this week I've been quite infatuated by it. Oh boy, it has messed up my algorithms. Because now everything thinks this guy likes Chippendales. You're going to get some more stuff, just like Chippendales. And I'm getting new Chippendales stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to see the new Chippendales.
No.
My algorithms
are you being served ads for thongs, male thongs?
Not more than I used to get before, which was quite a lot. So, look, Welcome to Your Fantasy. We did recommend, Dori recommended a whole bunch of Welcome to Your Fantasy media last week, but we'll give up the link to the playlist. It's on Spotify, but I did see someone also put it on YouTube. And then as always, the Instagram feed. Add it to your playlist. It's awesome. I'm not going to lie to you. This happens to me a lot, and I'm sure it happens to you, and it's cool because people will see an 80s story, our listeners, family members, and they go, hey, check this out. So the two I got this week was the Tina Turner Barbie doll. Did you see that?
Yes, I did. Wow.
I'm not hating on it. I mean,
no, I could have wanted that Barbie doll in my time when I didn't play with Barbie dolls very much, but you know, very cool. Very cool.
So I got that a lot, but the one thing got everyone, and this is where it got everyone in the feels. I think, Dori, you're going to get in the feels.
I'm already starting to tear up.
Oh, so it was it Comicon? Was it San Diego Comicon, I think?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. About 2 weeks ago, we missed this. We didn't include it in last week's show because we're talking about bum-bums. The reunion between Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd at New York Comicon. Sorry, it wasn't San Diego. New York Comicon. The two of them, and it's the first time they've seen each other in a couple of years. Obviously COVID and they were on stage together for the first time, and everybody got super in their feels about it.
I mean, the thing is, every time I see Michael J. Fox, I get emotional because, you know, of his condition, but also he still looks like a kid. I mean, how old is he? I don't even know how old he is, but he still looks like a kid.
Yeah.
And it takes me right back to my childhood.
Yeah.
And I get emotional, man. I just do.
I mean, he's in his 60s now, been living with Parkinson's for the best part of 20 odd years. They say probably his whole life.
I reckon he's had Yeah, I reckon he's had like some experimental medication or stuff because he's done well with it,
Yeah.
He's been okay.
Yeah, they say that, he probably...
He is 61.
Yes.
61 years old.
They say that like he's probably been dealing with it with way longer than he ever revealed because, he had that kind of like jumpy kind of style. And they say that was him actually trying to manage it from young. From even in Back to the Future, yeah.
I thought it's a disease you only get when you're older. That's crazy.
Yeah, shame. He's been dealing with it a long time, and obviously very warm moment between the two of them. Christopher Lloyd is in his 80s, 83. Still feisty, still going. And I think, especially this article that it's a lot of articles around, but it closes off and it goes, what's the saddest thing about seeing Michael J. Fox like this is going, think of all the comedies that could have been. Think of all the great movies and TV shows that he would have been involved in had it not been for the condition. Because, even when he was in, what was the one that Charlie Sheen took over from him, that sitcom, kind of like the last show he is in?
Spin City.
Spin City. That was kind of his last big show. And so he hilariously shows up in Curb Your Enthusiasm. Remember that episode?
Yes. Oh, my God, yes.
I think he stays above Larry David for a while. I can't remember why Larry David's staying in the apartment, his girlfriend or something. And Michael J. Fox.
I can't remember either, but I'm going to track that down and rewatch it.
Oh, it's probably my all-time favorite Curb Your Enthusiasm because of Michael J. Fox, but he plays it, so he just makes Larry David's life hell. Like everyone makes Larry David's life hell because Larry David's head makes his life hell. But the scene where he's walking around clumping with his boots and he tells Larry David, no, I have to wear them because of my condition, and he just makes his life absolute hell. It's so funny. He's such a dickhead, actually.
Yeah. No, I know, but Michael J. Fox has always really managed to actually poke fun at his condition, which is I suppose the best way to deal with it.
Yeah. So that got everyone in their feels. And
oh my God.
When next could we even see them together? Christopher Lloyd, listen, he's looking sprightly and young and probably, drank the devil's Kool-Aid, but maybe that's the last time you ever see them together. Hey? Oh, did I make it even worse? What have I done? What have you done? So we've got a special treat. We've got the Chart Savant coming up later in the show. So we're going to get, because as you've noticed, Dori, we've done really well. We've stuck to an order. We haven't rambled off. We've not been.
Have we not? Are you sure?
No. We're okay, going to talk about the Spotify playlist. Cool. We're going to talk about Michael J. Fox. We're not going to get distracted and find what movies Bon Jovi was in.
No.
Okay, we're sticking to our running order because we've got the Chart Savant coming up. But movies take precedence, viewing recommendations. What do you have for me this week, Dori?
Paulo, this week I'm cheating a little bit.
Oh.
But it's only a little bit of a cheat because the movie that I'm doing came out in 1979 and is actually set in 1964.
Okay.
But because it came out, we're cusping. It came out in 1979, but it has been influential ever since then, but specifically in the 80s, it was hugely influential. But
Dori, it's fine. You don't need to explain that, right? You don't need to explain so, because you know what the thing is that it would have hit the cinemas, but it would have been in the video stores in the 80s. And
absolutely.
Video stores, that was made 80s movies.
And it stars two huge names from the 80s, like people who were big in the 80s.
Yes.
Before I tell you more, I want to read you some of the reviews. So, you know how much we love Rotten Tomatoes because 5 people ever give reviews. For this movie, 13 people gave reviews.
Wow.
But it has a 100% rating from those 13 people.
Really? Gee.
Yes, 100%.
Thank you, Mom and Dad, for liking my movie.
It is also on the best 1,000 movies ever list from the New York Times.
Mm-hmm.
So, even though I'm doing a somewhat arty movie, it was also a huge success. And you'll know why in a minute. So, the 80 stars of this movie are Sting and Toya. Do you remember Toya Wilcox? Toya? We love Toya.
We love
Toya. Toya entertained us so beautifully during the pandemic.
Right, she went
with her home movies.
She went nuts. She like her and her husband just locked down in their stately manner. But my God, did they do the weirdest things? Yeah, back in those lockdown episodes. My God, fantastic.
I mean, we spoke about it on the show during the pandemic, so
Yeah.
So they are the two bigger names from this movie, although they're both in it very little. They are hardly in the movie between the two of us. In fact, Sting has one line. He's in more than one scene, but he has literally one line in the entire movie. Because apparently, so my husband's reading his autobiography, and he actually speaks about it in the autobiography, and he said he especially did it that way because he cannot act, and he knew he couldn't act, and he didn't want it to be apparent that he couldn't act. So he just, made it as minimal as possible.
Right.
Anyway, it's funny because he's actually been in other movies, but I suppose, when you know, you can't be good at everything, Sting. Just like leave something for the rest of us.
Exactly.
And then Toya's hardly in it as well, but she's very memorable. They both have platinum blonde hair, and everyone else in the movie has pretty much brown hair. So they really stand out, the two of them in the movie. I'm talking about a movie called Quadrophenia. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Never. I don't even think I've heard of that word.
Quadrophenia. It's also the name of an album by The Who, and that's actually who produced this film. Like, it's basically, I don't know if they produced it, but they were very involved in it. A lot of the soundtrack is The Who. It's kind of like almost a coming to life of the album, but it's not the film is not a musical. Let's be very clear. Because they did also do Tommy, which was like a rock opera, which was a musical film based on their songs, but it's not like that.
Okay.
This movie is very famous in it's kind of a classic. So what reminded me of its existence was I was listening to an interview with Toya. Our friend Gary Kemp, he has a podcast where he interviews artists, and he spoke to Toya, and she spoke a lot about being in this movie. And then I've actually since watched some other interviews with her about it, and she was desperate to be in this movie because the only other movies she'd done up to that point had been kind of old fuddy-duddy type things. So, and then the main guy, originally Johnny Rotten, actually auditioned for the main role, and they wanted him, but apparently they wouldn't. The producers wouldn't insure the movie with him in the cast. They were like, no, it's too risky.
I just want you to. Johnny Rotten, right? I just want you to quickly kind of capture who Johnny Rotten was and why people would not insure a movie with him.
So Johnny Rotten, also known as John Lydon, was from the Sex Pistols, which was like the punk act of the time. So remember, this is the late 70s. So it was right there in the absolute zenith of punk, right? And he was the it boy.
Yeah.
And I think he was also he probably just had a bit of a reputation for being difficult and rowdy and perhaps break things. They had a bit of a reputation. So the distributors said, no, we are not going to insure him for the part. So he was then replaced by a guy named Phil Daniels, who you probably have no idea who he is because he hasn't done much since this movie, I'll be honest, except if you watch the music video for Park Life by Blur, he is the guy in Park Life by Blur. So there's a guy who he's miming along to the whole song, and that's him. That's the guy from Quadrophenia.
Yeah, okay.
He's great. In a nutshell, he is a sulky young man. It's very much, it's got some political stuff to it. So, essentially, let me actually read you the description because it's great. So it says here, the film is set in London in 1964, a time when the working class youth broadly aligned themselves with one of two factions who frequently fought each other. The mods wore sharp suits, listened to current pop and soul music, took amphetamines, and rode scooters. The rockers rode powerful British motorcycles such as Triumph, wore black leather jackets, and listened to 1950s rock and roll. And that's basically like the scene of the movie. So it's these two rival motorcycle type gangs and what they get up to. And there's a scene where there's like this street riot that they recreate in Brighton, and it's crazy. This whole scene of the movie is just crazy. It goes on for ages, of these kids literally running riot. They are running through the streets of Brighton, smashing things up, beating up people, going mad. And again, in Sting's autobiography, he says that it actually got out of control when they were filming it. Like, people kind of got caught up in it, and people literally started hurting each other during the filming of it. It looks very real, so I believe that actually.
Outrageous.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's a crazy story. It's definitely the kind of movie where, so I've watched it, but I feel like I need to watch it again to really appreciate it. There's a lot to it. And I have to be honest, at first I wasn't enjoying it. It took me a really long time to get into it. In fact, I probably watched the first half hour of the film over 4 sittings because I was like, ugh. But once I got into it, then it was great.
Okay.
Really, really cool. So, recommendable. But very, very British. Wow, very, very British, like proper thick British accents. Oh, and there's so much angst. Paulo, the angst. There's so much angst. This movie is, and I mean, one of the descriptions by one of the critics actually even says here, what does it say? It's actually really funny. When you're an angry young man, like the main character, there's no way to prove you're an individual. There's no better way to prove you're an individual than to dress and act exactly like everybody else. Like, yep, that pretty much sums it up. But there's scenes where he's sulking. What does it say? Rodham is the director, by the way. Look back at an angry young man in 1960s is a throwback to the kitchen sink dramas that began plumbing at the depths of working class lives. So yeah, it's so angstful. There's even a scene where he's sitting on his motorbike crying in the rain. It's so 80s.
No way.
You know? Literally. Well, he's not crying, but he's all miserable and the rain is coming down. It's like, whoa. God. Oh, so much angst. Yeah, that's it. Just cool film if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much there to unpack. Like, I think, firstly, mods. Like, let's give a shout out to them because I think there are so many subgenres that the mods somehow kind of got bypassed, and there's still mods around. And I think shout out to mods because they were sharply dressed, like coats.
And they wore guy liner.
Yes.
The men wore guy liner.
I mean, we're talking the 60s.
Do not forget.
We're talking the 60s.
Yes.
Was Morrissey and the Smiths, they were quite modish, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of their look. But yeah, the mods, very smartly dressed, like tailored pants, like they were, and I think somehow they got lost in, because you had punks and you had goths and you had bikers, and the mods kind of had like disappeared. So shout out to them. You know, taking amphetamines and riding scooters. I mean, it sounds a treat.
And they were Vespers. They were actually very cool. The bikes were very cool. They were Vespers, but they had like multiple mirrors on them. They were actually like really bizarre looking like bikes. They were awesome though.
So I was very excited the other day. Don't ask me how I find it, but I found on YouTube a playlist of 45 80s movies. On YouTube, you can watch, and there are some stinkers in there. There's a handful of like good ones. I think I saw Top Gun was in there, and I get so excited because I'm like, oh my word, this is movie recommendations for a year, right? We've then found out some of the movies you can't watch because of rights issues, okay?
Yeah.
But I felt, and we're going to put up the link. We're going to put up the link for you to go and say, here's all the movies, take a pick. And it felt to me like the first time I walked into a video shop back in the 80s, the amount of movies, 80s movies available to me. And it's so weird because nowadays you switch on anything, you got like hundreds of movies at your fingertips. But to see that many 80s movies in one place, so easy to get.
I mean, but Paulo, you sent me this link, and a lot of them were like really B-grade horror.
Oh,
a lot.
No. D-grade, my dear Dori. And as you've established, my tolerance for shit 80s movies is very high. Very, very high. And it's Halloween. It's Halloween month. So I'm going to find 2 Halloween movies for the rest of the month. So I find my first one. I remember watching this. I watched it again. It is a nightmare of a movie, right? I want to read you some of the taglines. First, shopping will never be the same. Okay. Where they slash their prices and their customers. Buy or die. Oh. Shop till you drop. Dead. And where shopping can cost you an arm and a leg. That one was on the poster. Okay. So, Dori, okay, those are my taglines, right, for my movie. But it played on a premise that so many of us loved in the 80s, because I certainly had it, and I kind of have it today. The fascination of being locked in a mall and spending the whole night in a mall. Like, did you have that?
Oh, yeah.
What was it?
There's that movie, I can't remember what it's called, and I can't do it on the show because it's from the 90s. There's a movie with Jennifer Connelly where she gets locked in like a huge department store, like a Target type department store overnight with this guy.
Yes.
And I mean, it's also in one of my favorite movies, Where the Heart Is, I think it's called, with, I can't remember her name now. Anyway, where she gets locked overnight in a Walmart.
Yes.
Well, she actually is living in the Walmart.
It's a fascinating concept, right? It's just like, because often you'll be like in one of those big malls, like, I mean, one of those big shops, like in South Africa, we've got, like, I suppose Game is the closest, but yeah, like just being in a store, a department, a mall.
It's got everything you need.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So that was the premise.
It's got food, it's got like furniture, it's got all the things.
So much fun, right? Shenanigans. So that's the premise of my movie, right? So there's this mall, okay? The Park Plaza Mall. Actually, the same mall that's in my movie was used in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and Commando. Very different movies. 3 very different movies set in the same mall. Or they used the same mall as the set. So in this mall, brand new state-of-the-art mall, they have state-of-the-art security. So the mall at night is going to be patrolled by 3 high-tech robots, okay? The robots kind of look like Johnny Five on steroids, like angry Johnny Fives, okay? Short Circuit came out the year before this movie. And they're kind of like a mix of Johnny Five and Robars. Remember Robars from Riptide? No one does. I'm the only person that remembers that. Remember him?
Oh, I remember it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, you remember all the Mr. Perry from Riptide, I'm sure.
Joe Penny. Joe Penny.
Okay. Well, I don't remember him evidently, but you do. You see, I knew you would, right? So,
yes.
Angry robots, right? But state-of-the-art security, they will annihilate anybody who's not supposed to be in the mall. All the mall guards have a card. They scan the card, move on. At the same time, there's a rowdy and randy bunch of teenagers. Remember 1980s teenagers? Like 35?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
They're allegedly teenagers, but they're very patently people with mortgages and about to hit a midlife crisis, right? But like your classical stereotypes. There's the jock, there's the nerd, there's the slutty one, there's the average guy. Okay. And so these 3 guys work in the mall and they decide, you know what we're going to do? When the mall closes, we're not going to leave. We're going to hide here. We're going to invite our girlfriends. And they work in a furniture store. And what's in furniture store? Beds. And we're just going to have a sex party. Okay. So the mall closes.
Because they couldn't do it at their parents' house, I assume?
Well, listen, they looked like their parents themselves, but you got to imagine that they're 16. Okay. This is what you got to imagine, right? Because when you see them, I'm going to put the trailer. These are adults. These are grown-up people, right? Nobody of note. Mm-hmm. The one actress,
I was about to say, who's the cast? The
one actress kind of like is very B-grade background. Her kind of like film list includes like, oh, she was in like Murder, She Wrote, Corpse. Oh, she was like in Miami Vice, like Corpse and Morgue. Like she's one of those, right? So they stay in the mall and the girlfriends are there and they're just doing sex. They're just, randy, 80s teenagers. Now they need beer. They go get some beer from the store. But now what happened is, inspired by Short Circuit, the mall gets struck by lightning and the robots are overridden and now they're killbots. Yes. Okay?
Killbots. Got it.
That's one of the names of my movie, Killbots or Chopping Mall.
Chopping Mall.
D-grade, right?
I can honestly say I have not seen this movie and probably will not see this movie.
It is glorious. So now, of course, it's now them trying to escape the mall while the robots are trying to kill them. And that's what it evolves to. People get killed. Teenagers get taken out one by one heroically. I mean, like, I understand America and they got major issues with gun control and you can buy guns in Walmart and things like that, right?
Yeah.
But in this mall, the amount of heavy artillery that they're able to buy in the mall is like Rambo levels of artillery. I mean, shit sakes.
Well, not buy, steal, I assume. Not buy,
right, steal. But they're for sale in the mall.
Right.
But yes, okay, so they get the guns, and now it's war against the robots. It is it's D grade. It is D grade. It is such a fantastic piece of crap movie. It is for free on YouTube if you dare to watch it. It fits perfectly in that genre. I mean, it's horror. It's science fiction. It's randy 80s teenagers. It's shot in 22 days, and you can see it.
What year did it come out?
1985. Yes. Okay. No, 1986. Sorry. Yes. 1986. Short Circuit came out the year before. And I'm telling you, so this movie, the background of it is like they approved the movie on the idea. There wasn't even a script. And now listen, we're not talking big Hollywood studios, right? We're talking like schlock, straight to VHS. We got these video stores. We've got to keep them populated. It was that era, right, of fantastic movies. And so it was approved on an idea. They wrote the script in it really looks like a couple of days. They shot the movie in 2 weeks. They could only shoot the movie at night because they didn't have the budget to close them all down. Right, so Commando and Fast Time at Ridgemont High, they actually closed them all down while they shot there. They had to come in at night, shoot at night, get out by the morning, right? So it was really, they spent all their money on the robots, and that's what you want. Okay.
Right.
It is so glorious. It is.
I will skim through it.
No.
I will.
Watch the trailer. Listen, like we say, for the next couple of weeks, I'm only taking movies that I found on that YouTube playlist, right? But it reminds you of a glorious time of filmmaking, a time before taste.
My movie next week will be from that playlist as well, but it is not D-grade horror, so hopefully you will not do it.
Okay. Yeah. No, listen, there are some,
one of the decent movies on the list.
There are some decent movies, and like there are some movies that I think eventually you stop seeing what movies because they get blocked. But before that, there were some really, really good movies on there. But yeah, so I mean, listen, that's kind of where my mind is. The movie is Chopping Mall. Okay, very forgettable. And then Dori's fantastic movie called Quadrophenia, which cult classic.
Yes.
Having seen Sting dance, I think I'm more afraid of that. Then Killbots, killer robots.
He dances so awkwardly, and yet apparently he's so good at sex. So, the mystery of the universe.
Hey, well, listen, isn't it only his wife that said he's good at sex? I mean, sample of what?
We'd have to do a poll on a few more people.
Oh no, listen, my search history is already screwed up after Chippendales. I'm not going, is Sting good at sex? Then I'm definitely getting locked up. His mystical powers envelop all those around him. Welcome to that 80s show. Are you Celeb Savant or Chart Savant? What are we doing here?
Whatever you want to call me.
Okay. All right. I'm going to call you Barrett. So you play a game with us where you give us some songs. I'll explain it. Before we get into that, Barrett's got to pay. He's got to pay the bills here, right? So he went to the Foreigner concert a couple of weeks ago. Barrett, good time? Good time had by all?
Yeah, it was brilliant. So they came on stage at 8 o'clock, no opening act. They performed for 2.5 hours solid. Sounded brilliant. Quality sound, quality singing, super, super brilliant. So thank you. Shout out to Big Concerts for the tickets and for the show. Really, really enjoyed it. And there's some cool shows coming up, not really 80s related. We've got One Republic, we've got David Gray, The Lumineers, Imagine Dragons. You were speaking about Sting, so Sting's also coming. So
yeah, okay.
Yes, so I've seen Sting multiple times.
Okay, and Dori, we can actually ask at the concert. We can do the survey. Is Sting good at sex?
Yeah.
And we can find out from more people. And listen, that 80s show is very proudly a craft show. We're a mom and pop operation. We do not get any payment for that spot there. Barrett didn't even bring us a 300 Rand keyring from the merch table. So anyway, I'm putting that out there, just by the way. But yeah, big concerts, keep an eye for the other concerts of some of those people. We here play a game. Barrett, he knows all the charts. Every week he comes in, well, not every week. When he comes in, he brings us 5 songs, song number 5 to number 1. plays them in order, gives a little bit of a factoid. And we have to guess the year, the country, and the month that this chart is from. Yes. Let's give it a go, but Barrett, I'm going to change the order of this because I've got to show you my sleuthing. I've got to show you my sleuthing because I do get the songs, I do preload them, right? So I do know what the songs are. And I think I'm a very clever boy this week, okay? So I'm going to change the format on you.
Okay.
But just when it's time to do that, I'll change it. He gives us a bit of a clue into the song. Over to you, Barrett, Celeb Savant.
So did you, anything on the clue, Dori? Frank Sinatra. Any idea on the clue that I gave you guys?
Barrett gave us a clue, Frank Sinatra, and I said the only thing I think of when I hear the words Frank Sinatra is the song My Way, which is definitely not from the 80s, so I have no clue.
So, going from 5 to 1, number 5 to number 1. So, down from 4 to number 5 is Billy Ocean with Suddenly, is released as the third single from the album, following the success of Caribbean Queen and Loverboy. The ballad became the album's most successful single in reaching number 4 on both the UK and USA charts. This is a number 5, Billy Ocean with Suddenly.
Dori, that is some romantic shit.
And that is probably the only time a ballad will get played on this show. So thank you, Barrett, because I like ballads, but Paulo doesn't let me play them.
Oh, I will play a ballad. I will play a ballad, especially when it's as sexy as that.
Well, I own that album somewhere on vinyl. Somewhere in my house is that album, and I used to listen to it to death when I was younger. It's a great album.
Dori, find it, I'll buy it from you. Find it, I'll buy it from you.
You're not buying it from me. I'm keeping it.
Damn it. Okay, Barrett, you've tearing that 80 show apart. Okay, next. Next song.
Okay. Down from number 2 to number 4 is Kayleigh by Marillion, is a song from...
Kayleigh by Marillion? What?
Do not rip off one of my favorite songs of all time, okay? Kayleigh by Marillion.
Okay. It was released as the first single from the concept album Misplaced Childhood. It was the band's most successful single in this country, and it also became the band's most successful single worldwide, reaching the top 10 in Ireland, Norway, and France. This is Marillion with Kayleigh.
So much of my brain thought that's Phil Collins.
Really?
I know it's not Phil Collins, but it's like if you're like, oh, it's Phil Collins-ish. It's Phil Collins-ish. It's in the same region of Phil Collins. You got to give me that. Right? Okay. Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Number 4. We're not going to
say at this point that I'm leaning towards the UK because Marillion were huge in the UK.
Okay. I'm not going to guess.
I'm just saying at this point that's what I'm.
I'm not going to guess. I'm going to show you my sleuthing. Number 3 on the charts.
So up from 9 to number 3 is Madonna with Crazy for You, is from the film Vision Quest. It was released by Geffen Records as a lead single from the film's soundtrack album. Film producers John Peters and Peter Guber, along with music director Phil Ramone, decided to use Madonna after listening to her previous recordings, employing John Bettis and John Lynn to write the song. This is number 3, Madonna with Crazy for You.
Madonna, when she was crazy for you and not just crazy.
That's one of the few Madonna songs I really like, actually.
Lovely. Cool. Listen, very ballady. People were in love in this chart. They were in a good mood. They were ready to do things to each other. We're going to go number 2. Oh my God, I can't wait for my sleuthing. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Okay, up from number 11 to number 2 is Sister Sledge with Frankie. It is taken from their 8th studio album, When the Boys Meet the Girls. The song was written by Denise Rich after dreaming while on a flight from the United States to Switzerland. According to Now 5 album, the song was written about Frank Sinatra. The song was produced by Chick's Nile Rodgers, and originally he hated the song, but a week later he went back to them saying he could not stop singing it, so he insisted that the band recorded it. This is number 2 with Sister Sledge, Frankie.
So, Dori, this is where, earlier in the show we spoke about all the missed sitcoms with Michael J. Fox that we could have seen. And I know this is like kind of peak 80s, but is that not the theme song for a hilarious standalone Michael J. Fox sitcom called Frankie. And that's kind of the opening theme song, kind of Charles in Charge-ish. And there's Michael J. Fox playing frisbee in the park. And then the frisbee like hits the grumpy neighbor. They fall on the floor. And it's just hilarious. I would so watch a sitcom called Frankie.
Wow, you have an imagination.
But hey, listen, something going on in this
I love
chart.
that song.
Frankie, Kayleigh, love songs. There's a theme.
Very 60s sounding 80s song. And yeah, I didn't know it was about Frank Sinatra, so I learned something new.
Oh, listen,
Yes.
the great missed opportunity is the Michael J. Fox sitcom we never got called Frankie.
Right.
Would have been a hit. Would have been a hit. Now, Barrett, this is where I'm going to disrupt you. I know you don't like disruption.
Yes.
I'm going to disrupt you here. The next song, I'm going to play it. I know you've got a clue. You've done your research. I don't want to hear the clue now, right? We're going to play the song. All I need you to do is name right now the title of the song and who sang it.
So it's the crowd with You Will Never Walk Alone.
So Cliff Central station manager Greg Cohen would have been singing along to that. Guys, I'm so excited for my sleuthing. Okay, because I got it.
I think I know what you sleuthed.
Okay.
That's the first thing I thought of when I heard that.
What did you sleuth?
Hold on.
I'm guessing that Paulo...
Hold on.
Okay,
he's got-
wait. Murder, She Wrote, yes.
Murder, She Wrote. Give me my little typewriter because I'm going to solve a mystery. It's a little tribute.
Did you go on
Let
your
you amuse
bicycle
yourself.
with your little basket?
Oh,
Really
tribute
glad you amuse yourself so much.
to Angela Lansbury here. Okay, let me tell you this.
Rest in peace, Angela Lansbury. We love you.
You know, we're not going to do the normal stuff, right? So I got a homage there. So here's how I figured this out. That song, okay, it is a You'll Never Walk Alone. It was, I think it's a song from the 60s originally. Barrett, who did the original? Jerry and the Pacemakers? Somebody like that. Do you have the original? Okay, okay, right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
So it has since been adopted to become the theme song, official theme song of Liverpool Football Club, right? I know you guys aren't really into soccer, but you know Liverpool. It's really, I don't like Liverpool, not a fan, but that song being sung before every single Liverpool home game, it's like spine-tingling stuff, even if you don't like them. It's like, I've heard people who've been there when it's sung, like say, life-changing. When you hear it on TV, you get it. On video games, you get it. It's massive, right? That song, the Jerry and the Pacemakers version. Right. So, for that song to be number one, okay, I go, something must have happened with Liverpool, okay? Because that's what happens, right? You have a moment, sometimes teams make it to cup finals, they release a song, novelty value goes up. So I go, 1984, Liverpool win the European Cup. Could that be the reason it went to number one? No. Because, that's why I asked Barrett who sang it. And I also know the Madonna song came out in 1985, right? So it's not the 1984, it's not in 1984, it's by the crowd. So then I go, oh, well, 1985, here's what happens. And the reason that song was released was for a different reason, but it kind of rode the wave. 1985, there is a stadium disaster, a fire, okay, in Bradford. People died. Early May. It happened in the middle of May. First couple of weeks of May. So that song gets made as a charity single, right? Not quite one of the 80s supergroups. I mean, we're kind of like, it's not Do They Know It's Christmas? It's not We Are the World. It's kind of like the third 80s supergroup. They released it as a charity single. 2 weeks after that stadium disaster, one of the worst tragedies to happen in European football happened to Liverpool supporters. 96 supporters died. To this day, they're still trying to fight for justice of it, right? That, like I say, 96 Liverpool supporters passed away. And this happens now at the end of May, okay? So the song's out in the public. It's created to raise awareness and raise funds of one tragedy. The second tragedy happens and rides the wave, gets the song to number one. Okay, so I go, these things, now I know it's 1985, okay?
Right.
The tragedies happened in May. It's too soon to impact the charts. June, and of course it's got to be UK. Barrett, locked in, June 1985 UK charts. Am I right?
Okay, so I made it so easy because I thought, okay, I wouldn't speak about any of this in the clue, but I remembered that Paulo's a soccer freak. Yes, it's the 16th of June, 1985, the UK.
Wow! Okay, I got UK though. I got UK. Can I just claim that I got UK, please?
Horatio Crane, hand over your sunbrella.
Holy shit, dude.
Yes!
That is unbelievable.
Won't be fooled again.
No, you will next time. Speaking of charity records, have you heard the new one by a bunch of artists for Ukraine?
But it's new artists. Is it new artists?
No. It's Carol Decker, Tapau, Nick Haywood.
Oh, cool. All your friends, all your WhatsApp friends.
All my friends. Yes, all my WhatsApp friends. All my WhatsApp friends, they got together and did a charity record for Ukraine. It's about 6 or 7 of them. It's really super cool. So guys, listen out because it obviously supports Ukraine and what's happening there. I'm trying to...
I feel, Barrett, you're taking my shine away because I just had this amazing Horatio Crane moment. And now,
hello.
Yeah, I did. I'm sorry.
I mean, you got
I made it too easy. I made it far too easy.
No.
Next time, you're in trouble.
You misunderestimated my random capacity to keep soccer facts in my brain and know stupid stuff about soccer.
I can't believe you got the month.
Yeah. That's deduction right there. Because, like I say, both the disasters happened in May and the Liverpool one happened right at the end of May. So it's like it would be too soon because then the charts come out a week later. Yeah. So it would have to have been in June.
Amazing.
And those things burn out. Even charity singles don't stay in the charts for too long. They kind of like move on. Sorry, and burnout is the wrong thing to say.
What was your clue about number one?
So The Crowd was a charity supergroup formed specifically to produce a charity record for the Bradford City Stadium fire, in which 56 people died. The group consisted of singers, actors, television personalities, and others. That's all.
Yeah, it was really it wasn't.
I took out Liverpool. I took out all those little elements.
But Paulo would have known.
Yes.
I did do some sleuthing because I did double check one of the facts in my brain, but I'd figured it out, and I just had to say because I knew it was linked to the Hazel disaster, but I was like in my head I was like, that's not why it was made. That's not what happened. Is just this terrible coincidence that the two happened next to each other. So I did double check myself, but I feel good. I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel real good.
I got UK. Got UK.
Well done, Dori. And that's it's teamwork, Dori. It's teamwork. That's what we're all about.
Yes. Indeed.
So thank you, Chart Savant, for joining us. Big concerts. Check it out for all the concerts coming up. And keyring. Like, Dori, you like keyrings, don't you? I wouldn't mind a keyring.
I'll take a keyring.
I don't want T-shirts. Like, just a keyring. A keyring is cool. Like, I like keyring. Anyway.
Just before we sign out, so we've got the 80s song. It's Heal This Broken Land, Music for Ukraine, and it features Tapau, The Adventures, The Christians, Then Jericho, Doctor and the Medics, Nick Haywood, and Brother Beyond. Well, one of Brother Beyond.
I love The Adventures. Just saying. I just had to put that out there. Okay. So I love a lot of those acts. A lot of them. Yeah. Okay, I'll listen to it. I'll check it out.
Okay.
Cool. Keeping everyone honest, we have probably pushed the limits of the show, and it's time to go. Dori, it's been a hell of a show. I mean, what was the favorite thing you took out of this week?
I mean, just the image of you buying thong underwear, I guess, is going to stay with me. That will stay with me.
Of everything. Of everything.
Of everything.
Not even Angela Lansbury music. Listen to this. It's so nonsense. Everything you heard on the show today can be found on that 80 Show SA Facebook page and that 80 Show on Instagram. I don't know the handle. It's there. You know how to use Instagram. All adults. Thanks for joining me, Dori and Barrett. Goodbye.
Bye.